welcome to episode 10 of Before the Ball Drop podcast. This is our season finale, but fear not, we will not be leaving you. Fine people, we will be back with a all new season very, very soon. We're your hosts, James
and Rebecca.
And this week, for the season finale, we thought it was only appropriate that we talk about just a general discussion of the 90s and just living in the 90s as a whole. So this is going to be a anything goes episode where we just talk about just various aspects of the 90s, things that we didn't really get to cover in the other episodes.
Yeah, and that'll be fun because it's also like a culture episode because I feel like things are so much different from what it used to be like compared to now.
Oh, definitely.
100%. I don't know if anyone is old enough yet to remember the dial-up internet, but that was actually a thing, and it was painful.
Yeah, I experienced that in the early 2000s with the Roadrunner online, and that stuff was crazy. Just remember being on AOL Instant Messenger and trying to talk to a friend, but then my mom would get a phone call on our landline phone, which was connected to because it was dial-up. That's why it was called dial-up. It's through your phone provider. And yeah, that always sucked because I'd always get kicked off of whatever game I was playing or get any of my AOL Instant Messenger conversations interrupted because of my mom answering the phone, So
yeah,
that was always crazy. You couldn't be online if somebody was on the phone.
Yes, and if you were expecting a phone call, you had to stay off the internet. I forget how the mechanics of it worked. I think it was just like a wire that, for us at least, that went from your phone into the computer, and when you weren't using it, you had to like unplug it and put it back into the phone line.
Yeah, I don't know if ours was like that exactly, but I think it was something similar. Yeah, I remember. It's more like it was like an Ethernet cord that was like connected to like one. I think they were just both connected to the same thing, the phone and the computer.
So yeah, like
it was weird.
Like getting dial-up internet for the first time was just such an amazing feat of its own.
Mm-hmm. But when Wi-Fi finally came along, my God, that was like the coolest thing ever.
Yeah, it was weird. I was just talking to somebody the other day about one of my coworkers about how data didn't necessarily exist until a specific time. And when we had to use flip phones, I remember that I used to have to buy data by the gigabyte. And then you would be like on your flip phone just like scrolling through the internet on car rides and that. And oh my God, it was so slow now that I remember it.
Yeah, like back in those days you had to buy minutes, is what they were called, like the little phone cards and stuff for your cell phones. It was really weird.
It was weird.
I actually like a side story here, not related to the 90s, is I actually didn't have a cell phone until Pokemon Go happened, because for the longest time I despised cell phones, because when my friends started getting cell phones, I would hate that they would just have their faces in their phone all the time when I'm trying to like show them something or like, do something, like they would never be paying attention. They just look down at their phone or whatever. I brought a movie over to show my friends the one time, and I look over when one of my favorite scenes is on, and these little assholes are just all heads down on their phones, and I'm like, you fucking dicks. So for the longest time I didn't want to get cell phone, but Pokemon Go happened, and then I'm like, damn it, now I gotta buy a damn smartphone. This is fucked up.
I know, I had
never looked back since.
Right? I had a flip phone until I was 18, and I remember, no, not 18, maybe 17, because my parents wouldn't buy us phones, and we never expected them to because it was expensive. So we had they had gotten me like a flip phone at the time. And I remember that I got my first job at 16, and I had saved up so hard to buy this iPhone. So my first phone was actually an iPhone, and I hated it. I've been an Android user ever since. And I regret buying an iPhone. I regret that my entire paycheck went towards an iPhone. But you do notice that, like, as soon like a specific time shift in between the early 2000s where people just couldn't stay off their phones.
Yeah. Speaking of phones, in the 90s we had payphones, line of streets. Every street you'd be go to usually there'd be one, or at least every other street there was a phone booth. These were phones that you had to, which I think like they've been kept alive for the newer generation in like movies and shows and other media. So they've probably seen them before in those. Um, I think they exist in the UK still. I don't know if that's real or not, but I think they do. But you know,
That
um,
that's a good point. I don't remember the last time that I saw a payphone, to be honest. And there's
yeah,
only two remaining in Canada, supposedly. Nobody actually knows.
yeah. Like those were cool. You just put like a quarter in, and then you'd get a phone call that you could make in the little booth. Um, yeah, they were really nifty things, and a lot of people you know used them back then. They probably helped a lot of people who were coming out of the bar or something like that, and then wanted to get a ride home. They could just call somebody.
Yeah, and then you could press like zero. There were so many days of my, my days where I would just press zero, and then you could call an operator to call your parents for you if you didn't have money, but it would still cost your parents money if they accepted the call. And
Yeah.
funny story is when my brother used to play around on the payphones a lot, and he actually put a quarter in and he called 911, which you shouldn't do, by the way, because they could track it back then. And you shouldn't call 911, period, if it's not an emergency. And he made up this whole story about there being like a robbery or something at the convenience store, and he got caught like an idiot, and he got put in jail, and he had to use the operator to call my mom. And my
Oh,
mom answered the phone, and the operator would usually ask, "Would you like to accept this call?" And my mom was like, "No, you can keep him." And just hung up the phone.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
Let them learn a lesson. Oh man, when I was like probably 3 or 4 years old, definitely one of my earliest memories. And with my older sister, she got me to call the operator and cuss at the operator. Like she called it, and then she told me to like say "fuck you" to the operator. So I did. I was like 3 years old. I'm like "fuck you"
Oh my god.
to the operator. Yeah, and they called back, and my mom talked to him and was like, yeah, like had to explain what happened, and it was just my kids messing around and all that stuff. And I remember that. I always think back to that, and I'm like, that's hilarious.
Right. I know
Um,
payphones are definitely a thing of the past, and it makes me sad to think about that sometimes.
yeah, yeah, it's definitely one of those things that sometimes you forget about it, and then you remember it, and you're like, oh yeah, that was a thing.
And I
Or
mean,
you see it in a movie or anything else.
yeah, and like they
Um,
would have been good for people because, like, not everybody has a cell phone still,
mhm. Yeah, if your phone's dead or something, especially too.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to have those things back again. So whoever makes the decisions, could you like put payphones back again? They were pretty cool.
Right. There was a whole news story about the last one being removed from, I think it was New York City, and everyone had like a memorial for it.
Yeah, yeah, it's the end of an era right there for sure.
But yeah,
Um,
other than the payphones, what else did we have that has disappeared?
I mean, we talked about a lot of the music players that we don't use anymore, and music mediums that aren't used as much anymore. But it is interesting to see that CDs and vinyls have both started to make quite a comeback, which is pretty cool. Uh, wanted to start collecting CDs. I started again for a while, but then I stopped. But I know a lot of people collect vinyls now, both vintage and like new artists vinyls. The CDs and stuff. Yeah, they're kind of making a comeback too, though, because I have some friends that collect them. I'm trying to think of things though that we don't see really anymore. We might get back to that. um, in terms of like culture in the 90s here in the US, one of the biggest things that happened early in my lifespan was the OJ Simpson trial in 95, where he was ultimately acquitted of the murder of his ex-wife. And I remember watching that news story. I remember watching the chase with the white Bronco. I remember watching that on the news when I was little as well. Like I remember seeing, that's a vivid memory of mine.
I never. I know my mom probably watched it, but I never really like watched much of the news stories that she watched. If anything, it was just me like watching it while I was making dinner or something, or eating or whatever. But it's interesting that you bring that up because that is another thing that I was gonna say was cable. Like
Yeah.
just general cable.
And fun fact about the O.J. Simpson thing, real quick: the O.J. Simpson trial, that was the very first time that we seen a Kardashian on TV. Robert Kardashian, the lawyer.
Oh, really?
So yeah, that was their dad.
Oh, I never knew that actually.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So that's a fun fact there.
Hmm. Oh, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm. Did you guys have any big news stories like that in the 90s? Well, you said you didn't really watch a lot of those, or...
There was one specifically that I always remembered, and it actually came up on my feed the other day as a this moment in history type of thing. But it was the emergence of I don't know if they have it in the States. It's called MAID. It's I don't really know how to explain it without just bluntly saying it. It's basically human euthanasia. So it's called Dying with Dignity. And there was one news story in particular of this woman who was suffering from MS and or Huntington's. I forget which one it was. And it was like a huge thing where she was fighting to like, you know, have a doctor put her down, basically, right? And it became like this huge news story because it was so controversial in the 90s. Because the 90s was, you know, nowadays it's still controversial too, but back in the 90s it was even more controversial. And I remember that, like watching that documentary, and I don't know why, but it kind of like, it freaked me out, and I think that's where my like fear of like death came into play initially, because I was only like 6 years old watching that.
Oh yeah, that'll do it.
But one of the biggest ones I remember watching 100% is probably Princess Diana.
Yep, I remember that one again very vividly. It was such a big deal to a lot of people, and since I was so young, I didn't realize like why that was such a big deal. But it really speaks to like how important she was, and how respected and stuff that she was, that the whole world, like not just not just over there in England, but like here in the U.S. and over in Canada and probably all over the world. People that impacted people, like they cared about that story, and they were like, wow, like they all mourned her loss.
Yeah, I do remember my mother waking me up to watch her funeral at, I believe it would have been probably around 3 in the morning or 4 in the morning our time. And we watched the entire thing, and I remember my grandmother was watching it as well. And yeah, it was a huge thing because she was so important, and you don't realize how important she actually was until she was gone.
Yeah, I actually watched a YouTube video not that long ago. It's like a time capsule from that day. It was these guys react like they're like looked like, you know, like late teen guys, like college age guys. They were just they used to record, you know, just record themselves like home movie style, like just party and being bros and stuff. And it's just these three dudes in America, and they're just, you know, at like a table. I think they're playing cards or something, and they see it on the news about Princess Diana, and like they all stop what they're doing, and then they all go and sit there, and they're by the TV, and they're watching it, and they're talking about it, and Yeah, like that's just I gotta find that video. If I do, I have to link it in the description for the podcast because it was really cool. When I watched that, I was like, really like, wow, like it really was a very important thing to a lot of people. It was a big deal.
Yeah, and it was also, the time before Twitter and all that, before like fake news could come out. Like everybody nowadays feels like they know the whole story before they watch the whole story. So like Twitter, Facebook, and all that would be nowadays would be like flooded with fake news, and we just recently had one like that where there was a shooter in BC for the first time in like 40 years. And people were flooding like all the groups in that with this fake picture, and like it was an actual person, but they had misidentified the person, and like it ruined this person's life. Like imagine waking up and then seeing that, and you're suddenly hated because everyone thinks that you're the shooter.
I know that's awful.
But back in the 90's, we didn't have like Twitter or all that, right? So you had to watch what was on the TV. You were basically like bound to the news stories, the newscasts.
Yeah, things were a lot more reliable at that point in time.
Yeah.
Like things are so much more widespread now that anybody can put anything out there, and it's unfortunate, and a lot of people fall for it. People need to start thinking for themselves more because they're getting fooled every single day with different AI videos and all sorts of crazy nonsense.
Yeah. I know AI is a whole different topic of discussion because it's just, I don't know if it's good or bad anymore, to be honest.
I've never been a fan of it, so.
I don't mind it for some things, but other things, like, yeah, it's not great.
Nope. But, talking about things that paranoid us, I think back in the TV show episode, I might have like made a passing reference to Unsolved Mysteries and America's Most Wanted, those television programs that were on constantly. I think Unsolved Mysteries was like a every night show, and I know that America's Most Wanted was like a Saturday night show. But those shows used to freak me out and used to make me like paranoid about like everything.
Right? We used to watch those like America's Most Wanted, and then at the end they would put up their pictures, and then I would get paranoid that those people I'd see those people everywhere. I'm like, oh no, and they're like, have you seen this person?
John Walsh would really be, and he's like, if you see this scumbag,
call the number below.
You can remain anonymous.
And it's like, oh no, am I gonna see this person?
Funny story about that. Like you know how I always have to get a professional wrestling reference in every episode. That's kind of the goal. I got to sneak one in. America's Most Wanted. There was actually a guy. There's a pro wrestler named the Big Boss Man, and he was a former like corrections officer who became a wrestler, and he made that like his gimmick. He was like the officer. He'd always have the nightstick and everything, and he wore sunglasses, and he was like really cool. And there was a guy on America's Most Wanted who resembled him. So many people, because wrestling was really big in the 90's and WWF, lots of people, millions and millions of people watched. And yeah, everybody who saw that guy on that show literally called up the tip line and said, yeah, we know this guy, he's a pro wrestler in the WWF.
Oh my gosh.
So, the Big Boss Man was getting like, he was catching strays without even knowing it. And I remember they did a follow-up episode where they actually like showed the Big Boss Man, because they were like, this is the Big Boss Man, a professional wrestler, and they were like, he is not a bad person, and like they showed him like playing with kids and like just like being like a genuine good person, and they were like, he's a great person and helps his community. Like, so it was pretty cool that they did that for him, for his trouble. Like, so yeah, he got to just they got to just like have an episode where they just talked about Big Boss Man and the misunderstanding and poked fun at the misunderstanding. So that was pretty funny.
Yeah, those late night shows were something else. With the also with the infomercials was so funny.
Yeah.
Oh man.
But Robert Stack's voice on Unsolved Mysteries is Still my favorite thing. It's haunting, and I actually it's comforting though in a way because I like to fall asleep to old Unsolved Mysteries episodes, which I don't know why, but like that dude's voice, scary as hell. Like, just he can make anything sound scary, and it's just like crazy. But yeah, he was just like, and then they were never seen again. Like, she was last seen leaving her house on February 12th.
I think that the 2026 version of him would be Mr. Ballin from YouTube.
Yeah.
Every time I watch him. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Somebody called me Mr. Boss the other day, and I don't know what that's from. I looked it up, and the only thing I could find is Smiling Friends. like is that because like it was a video I commentated over, and they're like, it sounds like Mr. Boss is telling me about this topic, and I'm like, Mr. Boss. So I don't think I sound like that. I was watching videos of this character. I'm like, I don't think I sound like this guy, but okay. That's funny as heck to me. I love it.
But yeah, like.
Oh, you.
No, I was just saying, like, for people who watch Mr. Ballin, his voice is quite intimidating sometimes when you're watching him at like 3 a.m, and I don't know, he has a very calm voice, but when you hear it at 3 a.m, it reminds me of the 90's, like, Most Wanted stuff. Like, he was never seen again, and then he died. And like,
yeah.
what?
Yeah, Robert Stack from Unsolved Mysteries. One of the last couple things that he did were actually funny things, which was kind of cool because like he spent his whole career being scary, and he appeared in a movie called Basketball, and it's hilarious. There's like an Unsolved Mysteries broadcast in the movie, and they're like talking about like where this guy disappeared to, and the one guy is like, for all I care, he could be hanging by his neck in his fucking closet. And then the guy's like, and then Robert Stack, scenario number 1, he could be hanging by his neck in his fucking closet. That was so freaking good. Like, just hearing Robert Stack just, like, you know, be funny. And he was also in Beavis and Butthead Do America. He played one of the government agents. It's like, the guy's like, isn't that the guy whose camper they were whacking off in? Bork, you're a federal agent. Never end the sentence with a proposition. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. That guy off in whose camper they were whacking. That's better. Yeah, so Robert Stack, an iconic voice in the 90's, and I don't think we pay enough tribute to that guy, so we're doing it here on this episode. Shouts out to Robert Stack. Rest in peace, my friend.
Robert Stack.
That's right. Rest in peace. In 1996, we had Oprah's Book Club. I don't remember that. I'm looking at these things from this 90's timeline right now. I don't remember Oprah's Book Club.
Oprah banned a book.
I remember them. We talked about them.
And another thing too, before 1999 was the Y2K hysteria. So everybody just thinking that the world would end as soon as 2000 came along.
Oh man, you're gonna make me put 2 wrestling references in one episode, because probably the coolest debut of a professional wrestler in history was in what was 99, and it was during Y2K. Chris Jericho was a WCW wrestler who left the company to go to the WWF, and he debuted as Y2J. Like, there was a Millennium Countdown that would show up every week on Raw for like months, and people didn't know what it meant. And then it finally expired the one night during a segment where The Rock was in the ring, and that's how Chris Jericho debuted. And he was the Millennium Man. He was Y2J, and I always thought that was one of the most creative ways for a wrestler to debut, and it's one of the most enduring characters in history. People still call him Y2J, and you know, that was a long ass time ago, so that's like really cool. And I think a lot of people know about Y2K because of him.
Yeah,
like people like newer fans.
Yeah, it was a huge thing. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I said Y2K was just a crazy time. I remember being scared too, because we were just kids at the time, you know. So You know, like we were like really believing that stuff. Like, oh man, like the world's just gonna like cease to exist. Like everything's just gonna blow up, all the computers and everything.
I remember watching the sky on the night of January 31st, 1999, and like watching for any planes that were gonna come down, or, you know, so silly.
Yeah, I thought that too. I remember. I swear up and down that I saw like a craft in the air early in the day that day that looked like the Enterprise from Star Trek, and I maintain that I wasn't hallucinating that I did see that. I was 8 years old though, and a lot of times when you're a kid, your imagination runs wild, so people are gonna always dismiss stuff like that. But I always talked about that. I was like, it looked like the damn Enterprise was in the sky. That's crazy. Like, that was pretty crazy. But yeah, I remember seeing that, and I remember. Yeah, I remember falling asleep like before the ball dropped that year too. My grandma was over, and we brought a bunch. She had a bunch of my nana. She had a bunch. We had a bunch of snacks, and I believe I remember playing Crash Bandicoot Warped during that time, as well, like that same day. So that was fun too. And I remember playing that. I played that for a little bit, ate a bunch of snacks, and I passed out, and they woke me up for the ball drop, and I was kind of too much half asleep to even remember that the world was supposed to end. And then, of course, it didn't end, so...
I know.
Yeah,
I was so paranoid that it would, but then as soon as like 12 o'clock hit, I was like, huh, okay. And just went to bed.
Mm-hmm. We're still turning, baby.
For now. I remember too, like toys from the 90's that I definitely miss, and I don't see them around as much anymore. Like the troll dolls. I don't know if you had those.
Oh yeah, I love the trolls, dude. They were cool. Their hair was like one of my favorite things. Like my autism was a big fan of the hair on those trolls. I would literally just sit there and, you know, spike up their hair as like much as I could. Like,
I know my sister used to. I didn't obviously have fun with this, but they used to glow in the dark. You could get the ones that glow in the dark, and her and her friend would lure me down to the basement and then shut all the lights off because we didn't have windows in the basement. And all you could see are these trolls, right? And we would play a game called Find Rebecca, and it would be throwing the troll dolls across the room to hit me. And so, like wherever it landed, if I was like, ow, and then like I remember vividly, I got up on the table. We had like this dining table in the basement, and one of them just whipped a troll at me, and then I fell off and I crashed into the chairs, and my mom was so angry. You could just hear my mom like screaming from upstairs, "What are you guys doing?" And then my sister and her friend were like, "You're fine, you're fine, you're fine." They were like, "You're fine, right?" But that was like their favorite game to play with the troll dolls was lure me down to the basement, turn the lights off, and then whip them at me in the dark.
That's fucking crazy, but I can't lie and say it's not a creative game.
Well, yeah, you know, pretty creative. Or like
you had to be the target of that game. You had to. It wasn't good on your end, but
yeah,
sure they had a lot of fun with it.
I did manage to nick them a few times, so I got my payback. But like Tamagotchi came out in the 90's, which is making a comeback, by the way. Tamagotchis are making a comeback.
Those virtual pets were so cool, but it sucked that like they would die if you didn't feed them. That was sad.
Yes, that's true. I probably killed a lot.
Yeah, they were this little handheld device. For people who didn't know what they were like tiny little devices, and it had a couple buttons on it, and yeah, there was like a little pet on the screen, and you could feed him and do other stuff with him, and yeah, it was a mobile game before a mobile game was ever a thing. So they were little devices. They ran on like a one battery, I think. I don't know if they were like watch batteries that it took. I think some of them took like a watch battery. Yeah, but they had a very long battery life. But if you just like left it in your toy box for too long and forgot about the pet, you'd go back on there and they'd be dead, and then you'd have to get a new pet to start. You have to restart the game over.
What else do we got here? Lava lamps.
Oh yeah, I remember that. I'd never had one myself, but I do remember them. I think my sister had them.
Etch a Sketch. It's a little tablet that you would draw. I don't know what the material was made of, but it would like create this pattern, and then you would shake it, and it would just
Hmm.
delete the picture,
Erase.
and then you could do it
Yeah,
again.
yeah. There was two little knobs, knob on each end, and you could crank them, and yeah, the lines would move, and you could like try to draw things. Of course, Sketch was a one of the toys on Toy Story as well. So people seen Toy Story, they would know they've seen the Etch a Sketch before. I always think of Family Guy too when the guy was like, "I'm gonna go draw boobs on the Etch a Sketch." Oh, go ahead. They always turn out square.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because you
because
can.
you're very limited with it.
Yeah, you can draw a perfect circle on the. Well, you might have been able to. I actually don't know.
Maybe people were very talented and we just sucked at using them.
Probably. I mean, we were just kids, so probably like didn't do very well with drawing in general.
1998, Seinfeld finale. I remember that when it happened. That was a big deal to my parents and to me as well because I had just started watching that with them not too long before that, I think. And yeah, that was a big one. That happened on May 14th, 1998. Robert Stack, take it away. After 9 seasons, the hugely influential sitcom Seinfeld aired its final episode. It was co-created by Jerry Seinfeld and Larry David, and was described as a show about nothing. Here's a funny ass show. I love Seinfeld.
Oh, here's one, too. Furby.
Oh my god, you could
Mhm.
like program those things to say like anything.
Yeah, Furbies have made a small comeback. I believe I saw them in the store a while ago, but they're definitely not as popular as they were. I remember begging my parents for one, and they finally got me one. And I actually grew scared of it because it would just talk randomly. Like, it would just talk randomly at nighttime, and all you would hear was like, hmm. Like,
Yeah, they
in
were
the
weird.
in the middle of the night, and I'm like, what the fuck? Like,
Yeah, dude, like you wanted to like just throw it at the wall, like the Stone Cold Steve Austin figure that I killed in the few episodes back.
oh
Like,
man,
oh my god, yeah.
I
Things were
would
terrifying.
I would kill to have a Furby now though, like a legitimate '90s Furby, just to relive the
Yeah,
experience of taking care of a little Furby.
yeah,
Um,
they were fun.
we also had floppy disks, which got phased out around the 2000s.
Yeah, that's where we would save our little projects at school on
Yeah, they're
those
kind of
little
like big
discs.
SIM cards, is how I would describe
Yeah,
them.
yeah, they were weird, but I remember them.
Yeah, every computer came with a. Actually, I think some still do come with a floppy disk insert.
Yeah, yeah, the floppy disk was a definite like product of its time. We now have better ways of storing things now, so.
Yeah. What's your
But
like?
back then,
Oh,
thing.
sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying that was the thing back then. That was all we had.
So if you like could choose one thing from the 90s, like an experience or toy or anything, it can be anything. What would you bring back to the 2000s?
Um, I don't know. There's a lot of really cool things that we had in the 90s, but a lot of times they made like better versions or like bigger versions of those things now. But I think one of the coolest toys. Oh my god, we're gonna have three in this now. Cause one of the coolest toys I remember them making was the '90s. The wrestling figures in the '90s that they had that came with they came with the there's Pokemon ones that did it too. So Pokemon figures and wrestling figures, just any type of action figure that it had this thing that you could like set it on something and it would like play like for the wrestlers it would play like their entrance music. It was a stage and like you'd put them on there and like when they were on it their music would play and stuff, so you would have them for their entrance for playing with them. And the Pokemon games, there was like a Pokedex that you could set the Pokemon on top of, and they would like tell you facts about that Pokemon, and like you'd hear the Pokemon's voice, like their cry, like for Pikachu, you know, you could actually hear them say Pikachu, and you'd get to like take quizzes on like Pokemon and stuff like that. Those toys like that should come back. Interactive toys like that.
That is true. I agree with that. My biggest one would be the fashion of the 90s.
Oh yeah, I love the grunge looks, especially was always something that I thought was cool.
Yeah, like the ripped jeans and the denim. Denim was
Yeah,
huge in the 90s.
mm-hmm.
And the
Like
coveralls.
we've seen flashes of the grunge culture being brought back again in recent years.
Yeah, and like the coveralls, the big bottom pants, like kind of like bell bottoms.
Yeah, we had Jinko jeans. Those were ones that I really liked.
I know, I would like it. Oh man, I just want to wear the 90s stuff again. It is making a comeback though again. Like a lot of 90s stuff is making a comeback. I find that a lot more stuff from the 90s is coming back faster than 80s, 70s, 60s.
Yeah, they all cycle back through again. Everything comes back for a little while. It's finally the 90s like turn to like finally get that again, which is cool because anytime like in like our childhood or teen years that like people would start wearing stuff from like the 80s or 70s, like our parents would be like, oh my god, that is so cool, they are bringing back stuff from my childhood. And now it's like we're seeing that happen now for us too, like, oh shit, they're bringing this back, like that's cool.
Another thing that I would bring back too is the Eaton catalogs.
Catalogs in general, like,
Yeah.
we're like, yeah.
I mean, they were a waste of paper, but we didn't have anything else at the time. So one thing I don't like is how we're slowly transitioning out of the paper format and going all digital, because I see it every day in my job, right? Like not everybody adapts to digital, you know, and some people still want physical paperwork. And you know, I think that we need to go back to physical paperwork. Bring back the catalogs.
Heck yeah, dude. I mean, I like physical magazines. Like, I still love magazines. The like the gaming publications, like Game Informer. It was always like every time I have a GameStop membership, they're like, do you want a digital format for Game Informer monthly, or did you want it? And I'm like, hell no. I always wanted it physically. I always wanted that shipped to my house. I always wanted to have the physical Game Informer magazines. I always like still to this day, like magazines are cool. I like picking them up and looking at them in the store, and yeah, skimming through things. Some of them still have posters in them, so some of them are still really cool.
Yeah,
but like that was a big thing back in the day.
Yeah, I agree with that. I didn't get as many, like, we used to get the what was it called? The Nintendo magazines?
Nintendo Power.
Yeah, we used to get those.
Yeah, those were awesome.
Yeah, those are hard to find now.
Yeah, I think they're worth something now. Maybe not. Maybe some of them are worth something. But I think you could find them on like eBay and stuff. Maybe like a whole lot of them for like a decent price, I'd imagine. But it shouldn't be that expensive. But I think maybe there are certain editions that probably are expensive.
I think I only have one left, and it's a Darkwing Duck one. For some reason, that's like the one I bought. Yeah, no, the general, like, culture of growing up in the 90s is different. Like, if we're talking about, like, politics and all that, like, everything's just so different.
1998. Everybody here in the U.S. that was around back then remembers the impeachment of Bill Clinton. That was such a huge story at the time. With him and Monica Lewinsky and all that stuff happening. That was funny. I remember that even as like a 7-year-old. I thought that shit was funny. We made fun of that in school all the time. We were like, oh man, the president was getting sucked off by some random lady in the White House here.
Jesus.
And his wife said, "Oh well, it's okay. Hillary never left him." It's crazy. Speaking of Hillary and Bill Clinton, remember when the Macarena was like a huge like dance craze in the
Yes.
'90s? And I remember they were really trying to get it over, like even more so. I think it was more or less actually the politicians were trying to get votes. I remember seeing like Hillary and Bill and all those people doing the Macarena on TV around that time, and I was like, what the fuck even is life right now? Yeah, like the politicians were getting in on it, trying to be, hip with like the young generation. That was their way of trying to get votes and stuff, which is funny because Clinton, Hillary did that way later on in the recent times when she ran for president and she talked about Pokemon Go and she said the funniest joke ever. It's not funny, but it's funny because it's so bad. And it was she's like, I wish we could get Pokemon Go to the polls and vote. Oh my god. It's always funny when politicians get in on like crazes and fads and trends like that.
I know, nowadays it's even worse.
Yeah.
Yeah, like we didn't have a lot of news. Well, we probably did have a lot of news stories, but you're a kid and you don't really care too much about it. I used to watch the news with my grandmother, but only because she would make us stay up to watch the news with her, and it wasn't until we got older that we realized that she was just lonely and she wanted someone to watch the news with her. But we would always go to like our cottage and that, and she would give us coffee because our parents weren't with us. And it was the first time I got introduced to coffee. It was like 1997 when I was probably 7 years old, and my grandmother was just feeding me coffee to keep me awake.
Yeah. I have to actually ask you, what's your height, if you don't mind sharing that? Because I think I got my height from my dad, but like sometimes like my mom would always say, coffee stunted your growth because you drank it as a youngster. I'm 5'4", so I'm like a tiny, tiny dude.
Oh no, I'm like five, like almost 5'6".
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I was like, oh man, because they said coffee stunts your growth and all that, and I'm like, really?
No, I think it's mainly genetics. I don't think coffee actually stunts your growth because I don't have. My brother's like 6'2" almost, and he's the tallest one in the family. But both my parents are very, like, short.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I got like the worst genetics of like everything because like, not only am I short but also bald because of my dad. Thanks, Dad. God damn it. Why?
I know, stupid genetics. I know, I'm taller than my mom. I seem to get taller. I think they actually start to shrink after a certain age because every time I stand next to her, I seem to be a bit taller than her. And she's like, are you getting taller or am I getting shorter?
Speaking of, from the tragedy of baldness to another tragedy that took place here in the U.S. in 1999, the Columbine shooting at the Columbine High School in Colorado was crazy. Like that's a crazy way that we ended the 90s, the decade here in the U.S. I guess we didn't really end it. It was earlier in the year, April of '99. 4 days before my birthday, April 20th. The Columbine shooting was it's one of the deadliest mass shootings at a school in U.S. history, and I just remember how huge that was. That was on the news for weeks, in the news cycle for weeks, because so many parents, grieving the loss of their children, and they focused on those two guys a lot in the news. A lot of stuff kept coming out about them, and there's still stuff today that people make videos on YouTube about these guys, Harris and Klebold. Did you have anything like? Did that news like reach you guys in Canada as well?
Yes. I didn't actually know too much because, again, I wasn't a huge news fan. Um,
Yeah.
and when I did watch it, it was with my grandmother after hours, and she always had to catch up on the news stories. But I do remember learning about that, but it wasn't until I was later in my teens that I actually looked more into it.
Yeah, just so crazy. They were the trench coat. They called themselves like the trench coat mafia, and they wore those black trench coats, and that was a reason why when I wanted to be Sting, the wrestler Sting for Halloween, I got to actually play both Sting characters because at the time Sting on WCW Wrestling was playing the Crow character, like based off Brennan Lee's Crow character, and he wore a trench coat. And my mom was like, "We can't send you to school with a black trench coat because of Columbine, so we're gonna have to improvise here." And I became the colorful face paint surfer Sting at school. But then that night trick or treating, my mom did my makeup again, and I got to wear the trench coat and be the dark Sting. And Sting actually at the time too stopped wearing the coat for a while because out of respect for that, the families and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But I do. And another thing I learned about that in recent years about Columbine was the game Doom. In the original Doom game, I guess the two kids, they created a map of their school in the game, and that's what they would use to like simulate their shooting up the school. They actually created the map of the school in that game, and they would play it and they would practice in the game like how they're gonna do the carry out the mass shooting, which is absolutely insane, honestly.
That is insane. I read a book about it the other day too. Not the other day. I read a book about it a while ago about the Columbine shooting, and it just blows my mind. The more I learn about it, and how like I think the one thing that they made a movie about it was the girl who they asked if she believed in God, and she said she did, and then they just shot her. Like, so stupid. And it kind of like, again, with the recent shooting that we had, it's a big controversy because like, unfortunately the shooter was a trans person, so it's caused a lot of shift in politics here.
Yeah, which is always like the worst thing. Like when people use it for an agenda to hate a group of people, like it's like one of those things because it's like they're so pick and choose about like that, like
Yeah.
say like one time it's a white guy that did it, but they don't, so then it's like, oh yeah, it's this type of person, then it's anyone of color that did it, and then it's someone who happens to be trans or someone happens to be gay, and it's really just like it takes away from the tragedy itself and the actual bottom line of like what we should be trying to stop from happening, or the shootings, and they just want to weaponize it their way now, and it's just disrespectful to the victims by doing that as well. Like they're going, yeah.
Like, I'm under the belief that the shooter shouldn't even be mentioned in news stories. You shouldn't even give them the time of day.
No, exactly.
Because, like,
all it does is storms.
yeah. And, like, this was a 20-year-old person who went and shot a bunch of kids, like children, under the age of, I think it was like 12, 11. And, like, why are you taking your anger and your mental health issues out on these kids? Like, what's the point of that? And again, because it's Canada, like, we don't have open gun laws or anything. So where did they get the gun? Like, it's illegal to own a gun here, except for certain circumstances. So it's just opened up like a whole thing, but it's too bad because I've seen a lot of people just start blaming, people on that.
Yeah, which just that kind of stuff makes me so mad. And it's like, once again, it's like, the bottom line is the tragedy itself and the root cause of things, and they're going to weaponize it against a group of people, like saying that they're the type of people that do this when it's literally all shapes and sizes of people do this type of stuff, unfortunately.
And
it's ridiculous.
like one of the biggest news stories I think that we had in the 90s that became big again because we kind of buried it. And this is a stain on Canada's history, a really big stain, too. And it was the closure of the reform schools for the Indian children and like the Native Indians. And I think the last one was closed in 1998, but it got buried. So a lot of this stuff got buried until recently. I think it was during just before COVID, maybe, where they dug up a mass grave of children, and it became like a permanent stain on Canada history. And now we have like a day dedicated to it, but it's like, you know, it's kind of like stupid in my opinion because it's like, you know, one day compared to the decades that they had to face, you know, torture and all that and reformment. You know, what's one day gonna do of the year, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So that was probably one of the biggest news stories, was the closure of the last reform school. As far as I know, I'm not 100% caught up on that news, but I don't think there's any around anymore.
Yeah. See, that's like a very unfortunate thing, and it's even more unfortunate that it, like you said, got like buried and people didn't know about that until like
Yeah.
it got light on it again, you know?
Well, I remember having to watch the videos on it, like there was something in public school that we had to watch. And when I say public school, I mean grades 1 to 8. And we had to watch a movie about the reform in school. So we were taught about it, but it wasn't something that was, you know, put into the curriculum enough that so when these mass graves got uncovered, we're like, oh, wow. You know what I mean? Like, what happened? And nobody was really educated. Because when you're a child, you're not really taking in that information.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so really, like, that's probably one of Canada's biggest unfortunate events that happened, was the reform schools. And unfortunately, you still see the victims today. So, you know, and the families that have been affected by that today in certain provinces. So, you know, shouts out to them for that. Nobody's forgotten.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that,
Yeah.
I can't really think of any like really big news stories from the 90s. I know that Canada went through a recession in the early 90s and people were like unemployed in that. But again, I was too young to live through that.
Yeah. I think we covered a lot of like news stuff on both of our ends, huh?
Yeah, because a lot of the new stuff that happened is like stuff from around the world as well. So like the Tokyo subway gas stuff happened in 1995 and like, you know, all that. But there wasn't anything that was like huge until 9/11 basically.
They invented Google in '98. I remember Yahooligans. It was the kids' version of Yahoo.
Yeah,
We used to go on that at school all the time. That's the search engine we had to use at school as kids, was Yahooligans, and it had like little fun facts and like little games and stuff like that. It was just like, yeah, the kids' version of Yahoo.
Oh, I can't believe I forgot about speaking of like, you know, internet and that, Newsgrounds.
Oh yeah, Newgrounds.
Yeah. That was a
Yeah,
good.
they had.
I played so many games on that website.
Yeah, everybody played on Newgrounds back in the day.
Yeah.
During school, they would too, in the computer lab or in the classrooms that had computers in them. They'd be on Newgrounds all the time until the school smartened up to it and blocked the website.
Right. I don't think ours ever got blocked, thankfully. But one popular game we did have that we could get a hold of is what was it called? Now I'm gonna have to search. It's a truck game, but it was one of those text games where you had to type instructions like drive north, drive south, fuel, stop for gas. It was called like the Great Canadian Truck Simulator or something like that, and it came out in like 1995. And you can
So
still play it.
It played like the Oregon Trail.
Yeah, and you
Yeah.
can still play it today. I was playing it at work the other day, so you can still play it. And I never actually got to the end because it's a hard game if you don't have a guide for it, because you have to, take a certain load, and depending on what you're taking, like wood or iron or something, you have to follow a specific route and make sure that you get there. But it would rain, your windshield would break and you'd have to stop. You could pick up a hitchhiker if I recall correctly. It was a really fun game that we would play.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, I think we've covered most of the biggest news stories in the 90s. Diana, Columbine, the reform schools. No, just growing up in the 90s in general was just, I feel like I'm too stressed nowadays, and I feel like the 90s was just such a stress-free time, and I don't know if it was because I was a kid. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I think things have changed over time, and yeah, things just aren't the same anymore. Unfortunately, I think life has gotten a lot harder for everybody. Just from a variation, like a combination of various different things that have happened in society, unfortunately, and with the economy and like everything else that goes with it. Yeah, it was actually a simpler time for everything, cost of living and so many different things in the 90s. There's a reason why like a lot of like people don't live alone. Like people who grew up in the 90s, they have to have some, like a lot of people, some people have been able to, a lot of people have been able to get out on their own, but like, like I've had apartments before and stuff like that with people. But like it's one of those things where it's a lot harder now to support yourself nowadays than it was for people back then when they were adults in that time period.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. It's very hard nowadays. Like, you have to basically live with someone. You have to have a roommate now. Which
Yeah.
sucks.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I miss like the, just being able to run down the street to your friends, stay out until the street lights came on.
Yeah. Yeah, I did a lot of outside stuff when I was little, and yeah, that was always fun. I used to enjoy my time playing outside with friends and stuff. That was super fun times.
Yeah, you could like go around and go to sleepovers and that, and it was a safer time, and you didn't have to worry about, like, obviously I don't condone this, but you didn't have to worry about anybody recording you for doing something that you shouldn't be doing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, or saying something and then blackmailing you 3 years down the road if you said something. You know what I mean? Like,
I remember. Oh my god, I remember getting in trouble in that time period for putting stuff on the road. Walnuts. There's walnuts that would fall from these trees, and I used to put them on the road and watch the cars run them over, and it was fun watching that happen. Watching the cars run over the. Yeah.
you got in trouble for that?
Yeah, because like one of the neighbors walked out with their phone and they're like, I just called the cops on you. And I'm like, what?
Okay.
Yeah, then the cops said, you're not allowed to do that. And I was like, really? They were like, I was like 8 years old and I remember the cop telling me, if we have to come back, you will be arrested. I was like, what?
That's so stupid.
Stupid as hell.
I remember putting eggs in people's exhaust pipes as a kid.
Jeez.
Yeah, didn't know what became of that, but I do remember that we put an egg in someone's exhaust pipe, and then we ran across the road to watch. And he tried to start his car, and the engine it just imploded. There was a bunch of black smoke. We didn't stick around. We ran because
Yeah.
obviously.
Yeah. That's fucking menacing as hell.
I was not a great kid sometimes. I was a bit of a shit starter, to be honest.
It's amazing though, honestly. It's funny as hell.
But that's pretty much like just the general, growing up in the 90s was a lot better. And I just wanted to kind of emphasize that because I think that nowadays it's just stressful with so many pressures and, financial and employment opportunities. And I just feel like the 90s, I miss it sometimes,
Hmm. I agree on that end.
But I can't believe that this was the season finale.
Right? And this has been a fun show to do for the season that we've done it for. On these weeks that we've done it, we've made it take them like a week or two every time. Sometimes due to various extenuating circumstances in life, but it's been super fun to like revisit this time period and shed some light on a lot of things and yeah, like retreading old ground, but also bringing a lot of like perspective to things too that we might not have had before until we brought it up and thought about it again.
Yeah. And we're going to be reconvening and doing a season 2, and we'll figure out what we're going to be doing for that.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff we can cover. All the topics that we've covered in that before, we can delve deeper into certain things. Like I said before, like there's the album clash episodes, which I've had so much fun doing those.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about you. I know you've had fun doing them too.
Yeah, no, I have.
We can do album clashes. We could do film clashes. There's so many great 90s movies that we could talk about, and I would just love to delve deep into those. And one of my favorite things about the album clashes is that we share facts about the development of those albums, like the songwriting of those songs and things that we found out, like stories that we've learned as well. And that would be fun to do for some movies as well.
Yeah, no, it'll be good. We're gonna do our big episode 2, which is what we're still working on behind the scenes. And yeah, anything that you want to add before we end the season 1?
I just want to thank everybody who's listened to us so far and put up with our sometimes I feel like I think particularly with me sometimes I like ramble sometimes, but I think I'm just very passionate about the subject matter, and my wrestling references. Thanks for putting up with those as well. I thank you, Rebecca, for putting up with those as well.
No worries. Yeah, no, that's so that'll be the season 1. Sorry that we kind of went off topic a few times with the news story part. I feel like it's important to cover those as well, though, because it does relate to, nowadays as well. But
Yeah.
thank you for joining in, and yeah, we will see you on the next season.
Yes, we will see you guys on the next season, and it's gonna be sooner than you think. So keep it going. Keep us bookmarked, favorited, liked, all that. We'll be popping back up on your Spotify feed again soon, and going to look into getting our feed on other podcast carriers as well. So besides YouTube, Spotify is where you can find us right now. But for season 2, I'm hoping that we could get us on other formats as well. So
Yeah.
look out for that as well.
And until next time, these have been your hosts, Rebecca and
James.
we are bouncing out. See you next time.
See you.